Hey guys, welcome back to the Barbell Life. It's been a few weeks. Today we're going to be talking about actionable items for you guys who are trying to build better programs, and hopefully we'll give you some things, no matter what your budget, you can implement and create a better program for your athletes right away. First, I want to make sure that I give you a little update. I have my left hip replaced. I know I'm only 51 and I'm getting hip replacements. I need to stop lifting those heavy weights. I'm probably not going to, but anyway, the surgery went awesome. Ortho Carolina, those guys are amazing. Dr. Howe, you're amazing. So anyway, I'm back. I'm excited to get at it. I will say this, not to go deep into it, but living in pain for so long and just getting used to it, it really created some different types of brain waves. I don't know, for lack of a better word, but I just thought it was me getting older. I didn't have the energy or the excitement for life, and then really was looking to probably get some counseling because I didn't know how to handle it. This new growing old thing, but I can say as soon as a few days after my surgery, I have all this energy and excitement for life and positivity. So anyway, I wish I'd gotten it done earlier. I guess that's the moral of the story. But anyway, so let's get to it. I'm hoping I can give you guys some really big keys to work on and to make your place better. So first off, I want to make sure you guys know that we are brought to you by Rise Indoor Sports. So for anybody that's local here in North Carolina, come see us. 130,000 square feet of awesomeness. And also, of course, by GymWear. For all of your velocity-based training needs, they are the gold standard, so go check them out. So, keys to a successful program. The goal of this podcast is to give all of you guys some easy action items to implement. So let's get started. First, you guys need to do a little assessing. If you don't do some assessing, then how in the world are you going to know if you're improving or not? All right, so range of motion is an easy one. You don't need anything, any expensive tools to measure range of motion or functional movement. You could literally just, with your camera, video someone moving and give them feedback. But here's what I recommend. There's this new app called Yager. It's super inexpensive, like just a few bucks a month. But you can give people some really good measurable feedback on things like the overhead squat, a lunge, and they have 4 basic movements that you can assess and give people feedback and say you're this percentage off what you should be, and therefore you can give them some easy to implement movements to improve that. And if they're a baseball player and they're missing hip internal rotation, or if they're a baseball player and their thoracic spine is not rotating like it should, that's some low-hanging fruit. You can actually help those people improve a lot with some very simple movements, which is what we do. But the overhead squat is a good one because, if a person can do a really super deep overhead squat without the, I usually have them hold a PVC pipe or a wooden dowel. Without that dowel or PVC pipe coming forward, that person has got really good movement probably. Now, if you're a weightlifter, you're set. But I work with a whole lot more than just weightlifters. I work with boxers, and I work with, tennis, golf. And I will say this, is you do need to understand if the hips are moving internal or with internal and external rotation. And you need to look at the spine. Is it rotating like it should? Is it equal both left and right? If they're a golfer or a baseball player, it's probably not the case. And so, but there are plenty of ways and plenty of exercises that you can suggest and implement that can help them. They're probably never going to be symmetrical because, they're swinging the golf club as hard as they can, with the right arm or to the right side, and they're not doing anything to the left. So of course they're going to have more range of motion going to their left if they're right-handed. So that's okay, but you can work towards symmetry, which is what I'm doing. I have a 13-year-old golfer who's pretty incredible, and he doesn't need a specific program as far as athletic performance, but I can give him some really simple movements to do at home, and he can get some really good progress just by moving better, because he did lack internal rotation. So if you lack hip internal rotation, that hip is not going to be able to separate from the shoulder like it should, because the knee is going to go before it should. You want to hold that position as long as you can, producing as much torque as possible before you drive a golf ball. But so overhead squat for rotational athletes, at least something to look at T-spine. I really like where they're seated Indian style, and have them hold a wooden dowel on their shoulders, and make sure you have something like something of color, like a piece of tape that shows directly in the middle of their bodies, and then have them rotate to the right and hold it, rotate to the left and hold it. It's a super simple test, and see if they're symmetrical or not. Simple. Now, speed and jumping, you need to test people. If you're a performance facility, and I'm not knocking you, because I've done it in the past. When I first started, I was excited to get athletes, and I was just training them. But you need to assess. You need, what is your current 40-yard dash? So what we have our athletes do now, if they're a baseball player, we run a 60. Otherwise, most everyone runs a 40, because I have so much data to compare the other athletes to. So whether it's a 60 or whether it's a 40, what we do is we have swift performance timing gates, and we're able to in one move, I can track their 10-yard split, and I can also track their 30-meter or 30-yard flying 30. So I can look at how long are they holding their top speed, and I can also look at their acceleration. So it's pretty easy. Do a couple of those, and you get a lot of good data. But I also have the shred meal, which I love the shred meal, and I was like, it took me a year for everyone to convince me to get one, and now I love it. You know why I love it? It's because it's so easy to use. And if an athlete has some type of movement flaw, I can stand right beside them and coach them. If someone's running a 40-yard dash, unless I'm going to run every 40-yard dash that my athletes run, I can't be in their ear telling them to, make sure that they're standing upright, that they're looking straight ahead, or that they're make sure they get good range of motion at the shoulder, the cheek to cheek, or whatever it is your cues are for speed. But with the shred meal, I sure can, and so can my coaches. And we also do a pro agility. I think it's really simple. Just, we run the 40. With the shred meal, we have the gear 2, 3, and 4, which, Tony Villani, the creator, those are his. He developed them. The gear 2 is a really good look at acceleration. Gear 3 is a look at the transition phase, and 4 is max velocity. And there's tons of data to compare your athletes to other athletes. And so, and everything's stored in the cloud. Everything that I'm telling you that I have is stored in the cloud. Now, if you don't have the budget that we have, at Rise, no problem. You can still hand time. And my guy, William Bradley, that dude produces some of the best athletes in the country, and he hand times everything. So you don't have to have it. But the thing about it, for me, it makes it easier. I have everything stored in the cloud, and so it makes it really easy for me to give reports to parents when they ask, and really good for me to compare data, which is I'm going to explain in a minute, some things that we're doing ongoing. And so we also look at the counter movement jump as compared to the concentric jump. And the big difference there should be, the counter movement jump should be about 10 to 20% more than the concentric. And here's why: because obviously with the counter movement jump, you're going to get the stretch shortening cycle. You're also going to get the physiological properties that resist stretch, like the tendons, or like the tightened protein filaments that no one talks about but should. So it's a look at that. And so if someone, let's say that their counter movement jump isn't that much, say it's only 5% more than concentric, then you need to work on the efficiency of their jumping and do a lot of bounding. But let's say that it's 30% more. Well, you gotta get them stronger, because the concentric jump is the biggest property that makes someone have a really good concentric only squat jump is going to be strength. So it's a look at their neurological versus their strength components. Let's see, when we look at the drop jump, I would keep it simple. Choose whether it's 24 inches, 20 inches, 18 inches, it doesn't matter. But you're able to look at contact time versus how high someone's getting. You get a good RSI score. And we have the Swift Performance Jump Mat, which is the best jump mat in the world. And so, once again, all the data goes to the cloud, so I can compare all of my athletes. I can also, it's not really about the test, it's about the monitoring. And we use all these things every single week. So every single week, these athletes are getting to improve their pro agilities, their drop jumps, their counter movement jumps. And I tell you what, people are like, why are you always using so much, so much sports science? And here's why. It's because the research would say immediate feedback is going to make an athlete give more of a maximum intent to every single rep they do. So when I'm telling them, hey, I want you to squat this weight at 0.4 meters per second on the gym wear, they're going to try to beat 0.4. And if their buddy is doing 80% at 0.55, they're going to try to go 0.56. And so when it comes to compensatory acceleration, which is where you're going to get the most adaptations, immediate feedback is the way to go. So that's why. Now, I will say this. I think I have probably gone too far the other way. I used to be all about let's go heavy, max out Friday, and people are like, oh, all you do is go heavy. And now people are like, oh, all you do is worry about sports science and you don't let the athletes just lift. And you know what? Maybe they're right. So we're bringing back, for our weightlifters, max out Friday has always been there. But for my young guys, we're bringing back Max Out Fridays, and we're going to have some fun. And still not going to let them go with a weightlifter because they need to get efficient at things. But we're going to have days where we compete and we go heavy. And we're not going to have any sports science. We're just going to lift and go heavy. So because if the goal is to go heavy, maximum intent is required. And so I don't have to worry about it. It's like when you go sub-maximal loads, and you tell an athlete to squat it or push it as fast as they can, immediate feedback is the only way you're going to get the most out of that. So anyway, we also measure approach jumps, and then we do like a one-leg vertex jump, where they're actually we're just seeing how high they can touch. And that's that's a look at their ability to store elastic energy. The foot strikes the ground, and are they able to take that stored elastic energy and transfer it up with very little ground contact time or not? So like we have one athlete, Max Cornancer, who he has a great vertical, but when you ask him to do a running one-legged jump, the dude just can sky. It's like the Michael Jordan who stuck his foot into the ground and flew through the air from the foul line, double pumped and then dunked. He's like that, which is good. He's what some people call a twitchy athlete. So, and I could compare the athletes. Are they twitchy or are they strong? And what we're always trying to do is bring everyone to you want that perfectly powerful athlete is what we're after. So next we move to that was our speed and jumping, all the things that we measure there. Then we also move to power. And we look at some special indexes that gives us a lot of good information. And I'll explain it. So with power, we have moved to the trap bar jump versus the clean. Unless you happen to be, if you've been with me since you were in 7th grade and now you're an 11th grader, then I'll use the power clean because you can efficiently apply force to that movement. But if you're just now learning the power clean, the efficiency is not there for you to have maximum intent on that movement. So we're using the trap bar. Anyone can set up, and I can teach anybody in a few seconds how to brace and complete a trap bar jump with maximum intent. So what we do is we look at 75% of your body weight, 90% and 100% is what we do as far as our testing. And we look at that as compared against the other athletes. And the people who are producing the most velocity at the 100%, when they're lifting 100% of their body weight, are the athletes who are jumping the highest and running the fastest. And so what we're doing is we're looking to improve those over time. We also look at two major indexes, and we use GymAware to do that. We look at the dynamic strength index, and with that, we look at the trap bar. We take a trap bar deadlift, and we work up to about 0.4 meters per second. And with GymAware, we're able to predict the 1RM, and so that allows me to easily predict what their maximum peak force will be. And then we look back at the concentric only jump that we talked about prior to this, and we see of their available peak force from the deadlift, how much of that is going into something explosive like a squat jump, a concentric only squat jump. And there's an index there, and if it's and what you do is you take the peak force and you divide it by, and if your peak force divided by the peak force that you're producing when you do like a squat jump, and if you're somewhere between 0.6 and 0.8, that's perfect. If you're above that, if you're nearing that 1.0, meaning you're using every ounce of peak force available to you, then you got to get stronger. If you're below that, if you're like 0.5 and below, then you need to like stop going heavy, and don't necessarily stop going heavy, but focus on plyometrics and speed strength. So the RSI, we've kind of already talked about that. That's the reactive strength index. That is where you take the height of your jump from whatever, like I told you, pick it, be consistent, whether it's 18, 20, 24 inches, whatever it is. You look at how high they're going divided by the ground contact time, and you're looking for. I'm always looking at 0.3 and lower. If it's in the 0.4s, there's work to be done. And so the RSI is really looking at your true athlete. I will say this: when I was at Lenore Ryan University with the weightlifters, it was almost identical. The people with the greatest RSIs were the best weightlifters on my team. So they were strong, and they were explosive. So they had good tendon quality, and they were strong as well, and they were great weightlifters. So now, keys to implementing the information. Once you've gathered all this, how do you implement it? Here's what I would do. I say some big keys is like, make sure you at least have one day a week where they're getting immediate feedback from GymAware. If you don't have a GymAware, there's flex units. They're super affordable. But if you can't afford that, there are other things out there that you can get, I think, for free. But I'd recommend the GymAware. And we use the jump mat from Swift Performance on all of our jumps, whether it's reactive jumps or whether it's just counter movement jumps. We use the shred meal for our speed, and we use Swift Performance. We do on our first 4-week block, we look at once a week, we look at the 10-yard sprint. On the second one, we're looking at somewhere between 20 and 30 yards. And on the final block, we're looking at max speed. So we're looking at either the 40 or the 60, depending on who the athlete is. So, and we look at the trend. I remember years ago, a parent, it was Cade Carney and Tate Carney. They both play. Tate's still playing. He's one of the running backs at Wake Forest. He had a great year. I think he had 7 touchdowns last year and just had a phenomenal year. But Cade, his dad would say, I want you to test their 40s every single week. And I was like, it's overkill. Well, I was wrong. Looking back, I just didn't think about it. But if you want your athlete, to be faster, and the 40-yard dash, as we all know, whether it means anything or not, it means something to the college recruiters. If an athlete is running a 4.6 now, and then all of a sudden on a laser they're running a 4.5, that's a big deal. A 4.6 and a 4.5 is a big difference in the eyes of a recruiter. So, hats off, Mr. Carney. You're right, and I was wrong. In the warm-ups, they're designed to target the joints in a way that is specific to all athletes. So we want them moving through all planes of motion and through all vectors. And so we're going to make sure there's some rotation. We're going to make sure that we're working on hip flexion, hip extension, internal, external rotation, thoracic spine mobility, shoulder to hip separation. So once again, we're trying to get all the elements in a very general warm-up. So no matter who you are, you're getting that. But then what I'm doing is for we have our general physical preparedness group. So it's our group when you're first starting out, the first 2 or 3 years, you're in this group, and it's a program that's designed to improve all athletes. Then they move into the next phase, and right now we're deciding on what we're going to call it. Right now it's called the Gold Group, but I think we're going to change it to something like Gold. It's like the RSP Powered by Mesh Plus group. But what I've done is I've given all those athletes extra work they can do either at home, or I've given them work that they can, if they get here early, they can start their warm-up specific to what I've assessed on them. So if they have like shoulder issues, they have their work. If they have knee issues, they have their warm-up work. So they have their at-home work, they have extra warm-up stuff, and then they have extra cool-downs, and it's working great because like it was just taking too long because, I was trying to do too much, when the athletes were here, and it messed up the flow. So giving them extra work based on specific needs has worked out incredible. And so we've like I said, we developed programs for shoulders, shoulder to hip separation, T-spine rotation, hips internal. The internal rotation is a big one I find a lot. Shoulder health, so stuff that programs that will develop the serratus anterior, which we're finding is probably one of the most common dysfunctional muscle groups. External rotation, lower to mid trapezius, rhomboids, and all this stuff. If you've heard of upper cross syndrome, we're trying to target that. A lot of athletes, especially baseball players with winged scapulas and shoulders that are internally rotated. With knees, we're definitely using some of the knees over toes stuff. The sled drags are amazing, and like if you haven't tried them, try them. But we're implementing his sled drags, and it's working like a charm. And so what he tells you to do is use 50% of your body weight for 10 minutes. I'm starting my athletes out at 50% of their body weight for 5 minutes. So they pull it forwards, say 20 yards going down, and they pull it backwards going back. So you get the knee extension one way, and then you get hip extension the other way, and they just keep going for 5 minutes. And the goal is to work to doing their body weight for 10 minutes. And it's definitely good warm-ups for people who have those just natural knee pains. Then we're also giving extra work for speed-specific targeting. So, like making sure that our athletes who are more advanced that they're working on hip flexion and hip extension, that in a way that is specific to the range of motion and the contraction type and the velocity that will be needed when they're sprinting. So think about like with hip flexion. It starts when the hip is completely extended. Think about being max velocity sprinting. Your leg is through, you've extended, and now you need very high velocity hip flexion from that great range of motion. So we do that, and we do it at a very high velocity. So otherwise, we go to a well-rounded program where we're looking at hip flexion, we're looking at hip internal and external rotation. For the basic warm-up, what we do is whether you're our advanced group or whether you're our beginners, everybody warms up together. It just helps with the flow of the whole thing. So the warm-up is going to include some types of, hip flexion, internal and external rotation, abduction, adduction, flexion, extension of the hips, thoracic spine, shoulder to hip separation. We're looking at shoulder health, so we'll do some of Donnie Thompson banded distraction. And then every warm-up ends with speed development. So they'll work on some A skips, B skips, and then we'll work that into acceleration, bounding, and then it depends on what we're doing that day. So if we're going to do acceleration, we do speed development that will lead them into some good, like 10-yard sprints or whatever. If they're doing max velocity, and whether we're doing lateral or linear speed work, change of direction, we're going to always have some type of bounding where we're working on the reactive properties of that type of speed training. So if it's change of direction, or side-to-side movement, we're working on lateral bounding. If it's just max velocity or acceleration, we're going to work on linear bounding. So we're working on the reactive properties at the ankle, the knees, and the hips, making sure that we're creating tendons They're going to produce the most stored elastic energy when the foot strikes the ground. You always hear about those ground reaction forces. That's what we're after. We want when the foot strikes the ground, there's very little force that is lost into that collision, and it's displaced down the track is what we're after. So then we're going to make sure that whatever the element we're working that day, we're timing it. If we're doing 10 yard, 20 yard, we're timing. If we're doing the pro agility, the L drills, we are timing. And why? Because the athletes that come to us, most of them have the dream that they're going to play college athletics. So I'm going to prepare them. If they're going to get a tryout, and maybe they get a one shot at some school, they're going to be ready to run the best 40-yard dash, 60-yard, whatever it is. They're going to be prepared for it. They're not going to have the anxiety. I used to get major anxiety, when I was at Appalachian State running the 40-yard dash. But if you run it all the time and you're so used to getting to, and you've worked at it and you're used to getting that time, you know what you're going to do. It takes the anxiety out of it. You do it every week. So it's about giving your athletes the most confidence possible. So then once we're done with the speed work, we're going to move right into the first phase of the day, because that's really our speed work. That is just the beginning. It's preparing them for what we're about to do. So this is where we're using some of Tony Vellani's concepts, and it's working really well. And so what we do, the first phase is going to be looking at power along with either acceleration, somewhere between acceleration and max speed with, the shred meal. So in the first block, we're going to look at the trap bar or the power clean, if you're efficient at it, from blocks. And we're going to be looking at the power they're able to produce / strength, speed, strength at 75% of the body weight, 90% of your body weight, and 100%. And then we're going to give them one extra set to try to, do them, to try to express as much velocity as possible at no more than like 110% of body weight. And then that is paired with a max jump or broad jump, and then it's paired with the gear 2 on the shred mill. And then the second block will be the trap bar jump or the power clean. Once again, looking at 100% of body weight, 110% of body weight, and then they get 2 sets to produce as much velocity as possible at no more than 120 to 25% of body weight. And so when we're pairing that with a weighted jump, very low volume, and then gear 3 on the shred mill, which is the transition phase. And then that third and final block where you're really trying to maximize velocity, where you're looking at gear 4 on the shred mill, we're looking at a concentric body weight squat jump. The reason why we're going with the concentric jump is because we want as little fatigue as possible. And so, because really what you could do is you can do a concentric pin squat, and you can immediately rack it, and there's 0 eccentric contractions there. And so you're going to get that excitement from potentiation without any of the fatigue that comes. Well, I mean, there'll be a little, but it's not going to be anything like if you did any type of squat or catching of a clean. It's just it's a pin squat, concentric only squat. We're looking at 75, 100, 100. We're doing 100% twice, and then ending with 110%, and then we're comparing that with an AEL jump, and then finally with a gear 4 on the shred mill. Normally, by the way, before we move on, in between the jumps and the shred mill, we normally do some type of technique work, whether it's a wall drill, whether we're working on acceleration at the wall drill, whether we're working on the pawing motion from max velocity, whatever. So you're able to work on technique, so that puts it in the brain, in the cognitive. It gives them that in the prefrontal cortex, will put that good thought in their brain. But really, what you're doing also is giving them a second to recover so they can give max effort on the shred meal. On that final block, that is my main priority, along with, of course, the 40-yard dash that they've already run. Now, key 2 in that warm-up, when you're doing the 10s or the 20s or the 40s, make sure that you're only doing a couple. You just want to see where they're at, because I want to save this training for when they get started in the whole, call it like a contrast method. But I want the shred mill will be where I want them to put the most effort. And so then going back into the second phase of the day. Now what I did, I walked you guys through the first phase of day one, and I gave you the first block, the second block, and the third block. Say it 12 weeks. Now we're talking about the second phase. The second phase, we're really working on a quality of strength paired with strength speed or speed strength. So what it'll be on that is when right now we're working on clean technique. So we'll do like on the first 4-week block, we're working on the cleans from the hip. And so we're right now on the week one, it's from the hip, making sure they understand that position and working into a power clean. Week two, we'll do a power clean to a front squat, and then we'll start getting them to do a clean from the hip. So in the second phase, we'll do it from the knee, making sure we go from the knee to the power position to the power clean. But anyway, we teach them you teach the clean technique however you want, but we're doing clean technique paired with a squat on the first block. We're going somewhere between 70 to 75% for 2 sets of 3 at a specific velocity. So if there's 70%, we're expecting 0.7 meters per second or faster. At 72, 0.65, and at 75.6. And so they do 2 sets of 3, and then they have 2 sets to hit a 5 RM at a specific velocity. So, if it's 70%, we're going to give them 2 sets to work up to probably 0.5, which is 80%, and that's like a 8.5 RPE. Second week will probably be 82, and that'll be a 9, and then the biggest week, the third week, will probably give them 0.45, which is like a 9.5. So we're not going to take them to a true 5 RM ever. And so we'll get close, but I try to have 0 misses. If I can have 0 misses in my weight room, which is what so far so good, then I've done my job. With my athletes still pushing squats at 0.45, I've done a good job. They've gotten stronger. They've gotten all the adaptations I'm after without any type of risk of injury. But like I said, we're bringing back the Max Out Friday, so we'll talk about that in a second. On the second block, phase 2 of the day, on day 1, we will do clean technique, like I said. Then we'll go between 77.5 to 82.5% for 2 sets of 2, with then 2 sets to work up to a 3 RM. Once again, at specific velocities. And we're matching all of those with specific reactive jumps. And we're measuring the squats with GymAware. On the reactive jumps, we're doing the Swift jump mats. So we're looking at improvements in contact time and height. And so in the final 4 weeks of the second phase of day 1, now at that point, on the third week of the second block is when I anticipate peaking my athletes in strength. And so maybe I'll let them go to a 2 RM, but probably not going to do any types of 1s. Maybe. Depends on how mature my athletes are. Right now, we're making a big push to get a culture shift. And if I see that shift, I'll let some of the athletes max, but probably max to like 0.35. No, we're not going to risk them missing. So on the final block, we're looking at max power, max speed, strength speed, accelerated strength, and absolute strength. At that point, we're on holding pattern. We're looking for maximum athletic performance. So we'll look at 60, then 70, and 75%. Week 1 of the final block will be 65%. Week 2 will be 70. Week 3, 75%. And then the fourth week will be 60%. That will be our deload week on all things strength, but it'll be our peak on all things speed. So we'll do 2 sets of between 2 to 3 reps, and then 2 sets to hit a 3 RM at above 0.5. So above the accelerative strength. So, and we'll pair that with reactive jumps. Oh man, so I did tell you earlier that there would be no, that accelerative strength and that absolute strength will be gone. So it's not true. So we'll do a little bit. So because on those final 2 of working up to the 3 RM, it will be somewhere between 0.5 and 0.6. So we'll be in that accelerated strength a little bit. So, and I meant to tell you that at that point too, the squats will be banded squats. We'll be using bands at that point, which will deload the athlete in the bottom, which will also give, create less fatigue, and it will speed up the eccentric, so everything will be moving a bit faster. So, well, there's that element as well. And then now, third phase of the day, that's when we do our accessory work, and it's going to be specific to being better athletes. We want our athletes moving in all the different vectors, all the different planes of motion. So we got a hinge, knee flexion, knee extension, hip. We're going to move the hips. And all. So we'll do like step ups, forward step ups, Cossack squats. We're going to a lateral type of a lunge. So we want the hips to be able to move in all the different directions. Hip flexion, knee flexion. We're going to get all the things at that point. We will do things like we like the Nordic leg curls for one. I know there's some people like them, some people don't, but I have found that the faster athletes I have can perform the Nordic leg curls. So I think we have a really good progression with those, and so we're doing them until I hear of anything different. One thing that we're probably going to do that maybe a lot of you guys aren't doing is we're going to implement specific cool downs, which will have static stretching, specific mobility work for our the RSP MASH powered by MASH Athletes Plus. But we're going to have specific mobility work for those guys, and then we're going to have breathing. We're going to have our athletes on the ground, laying on the ground with their feet up on the bench, going through 4-second breathing in through the nose, holding, 4-second breathing out, holding on that. So we're going to work on breath work, and we're going to try to get our athletes from sympathetic to parasympathetic before they leave us, so their heart rate's down and they can go home. They'll have better digestion. They can sleep better. So we're trying that too. Some keys. Here's probably of all the things. Listen to the final things I'm going to tell you. Remember, immediate feedback is a key. If you can, I recommend the Gym Aware for velocity and power. I recommend Swift for the jump mats because they have, number one, their jump mats are incredible with their ground contact time and their heights, and they also measure right to left, so you can look at asymmetries, and they're just going to be the most accurate, and their cloud is amazing. Shred Meal, what can you say? Tony Villani, he's producing the fastest athletes in the combine year after year. It works. And the Yager, definitely get that. That's super cheap. It's a great app for range of motion. So get it, immediate feedback, constant monitoring. Like if a mother or father asks you if their son or daughter is getting better, you can say yes or no. And don't worry, if they're not getting faster, it's no big deal. You just need to know so you can then, take a different track. So now, some important trends. We're going to monitor speed and change of direction. We're going to look at vertical leap trends, reactive strength index trends. You will probably notice as an RSI score gets better, so will your athlete get faster, so will their jumping improve. We're going to look at power at specific percentages of body weight. We're going to look at absolute strength for sure, and we're going to look at trends in range of motion. The key is what I'm looking for is what trends together. So far, when an athlete is getting better and moving 100% of their body weight, if they're producing more velocity at 100% of body weight, they're getting faster and they're jumping higher. The reactive strength index, if they're getting those joints, if their ability to store energies improves, their speed goes up. And so if their range of motion gets better, then they get faster. But here's the thing. Here's one element that I'm not certain on, and that is the ankle. A lot of people will say that you should be able to take an athlete with no shoes on, with a flat foot, 5 inches from the wall, and they should be able to touch their knee to the wall without their heel coming up. I'm not so certain that's true, and I'll tell you why. Because in Jamaica, the fastest athletes in the world, I didn't measure one athlete that could do that. So I don't know about that. But I'm just telling you right now, I need more information. So another thing I'm going to do is this. let's say you don't have any of the sports science that I've talked about, or you think your program is killing it already. Here are some things that you can do that all of us should do. And here it is like spend some time doing a subjective questionnaire with your athletes, looking at goal setting, sleep hygiene, nutrition practices, their lifestyle, and outside stressors. And here's why. Then I recommend doing this one-on-one, one at a time. Sit down and figure out what truly is their goal, not their parents. And for all the parents listening, don't get mad, because here, let me give you this true reality. You can want something for your son or daughter all you want, but if they don't want it, it just won't happen, because they won't do what it takes to get there. Because a lot of these goals parents have for their kids, it takes an athlete giving total commitment. Playing Division I, especially nowadays with all the NIL stuff, and it would be so hard. It was hard when I was young. It's going to be harder now. And so if the athlete doesn't want it with all their heart, it won't happen. So you as a coach, set them down and find out what their goal is. Do they want to go to Division I? Do they want to play in the NFL? What is it they want? Maybe they just want to do the best that they can in high school, whatever. And that way, you can make sure that their actions is matching what they say they want to do. And so then it's not about what you want for them, or what their coach, their high school coach wants for them, or their parents wants for them. It'll be about what they want. And so, but if an athlete tells me, I want to play at Alabama, perfect. I'll be honest with them. I'll test them, and I'll say, here's where you're at compared to where you want to be. And then I'll make a plan for them. And then when they don't sleep when they should, when they don't eat like they should, I can flip the goal around and say, you said this, I didn't. And so it's the best thing ever. Looking at their sleep is a great way to get low-hanging fruit that'll give them quality improvements. For example, if they tell you that they go to bed at 11 o'clock sometimes, midnight sometimes, 1 a.m. sometimes, that's some low-hanging fruit, man. Because, number one, studies have found that the consistency is more important than the amount of sleep people are getting. So, number one, get consistent sleep. That they're going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time within an hour of each. Then it goes to quality. So making sure that they're wearing some type of Oura ring where you can make sure that you're looking at their data and knowing when they go to bed and knowing how good their sleep is. That is some low-hanging fruit, especially for your people, your high-level athletes who are trying to do something major. So, look at their nutrition practices, look at their lifestyle, outside stressors. And there's lots of low-hanging fruit other than them trying to run another, you getting them to where they are running a 4.5 second 40 versus a 4.6. There's other ways. Just ending, there's lots of ways to help your athlete. Some keys that we need to start looking at as coaches is to make sure no matter what happens that your athlete leaves you enjoying the process of training, of physical fitness, of being healthy. So that's what I'm hoping more than anything. Yeah, I want my athletes to reach their goals for sure. I want to create NFL athletes. I want to create NBA. I want to create Olympians, gold medalists. But I want to make sure when it's over for them, they enjoy training and then they've enjoyed their time with me. That's more important. So before we leave, I do want to talk about some of the latest thing we're doing, which is called, it's the Master Elite Pro, and it's inspired by my guys at Rapid Health, which I work with, Andy Galpin, Dan Garner, Doug and Anders. If you listen to Barbell Shrug, my guys, so they do an amazing job of helping people, and they already work with high-level athletes. I'm going to target more of the college and high school athletes trying to maximize their abilities, and sometimes we're going to partner together depending on the level of the athlete. But we're going to, at this level, we're going to do all the stuff we just talked about. We're going to monitor all that plus a lot more, because I partnered at Rise Indoor Sports. We have this it's called Ascension Sports, and what they do is that they do a lot of NIL deals for athletes, so they will help. And they also started this new side of their business where they look at the specific abilities of an athlete athletically. So if it's basketball or volleyball or football, there's divisions of each. They have a professional coach that's coached at that elite collegiate level or pro, and they'll look at their tapes and their game film, and they'll tell them athletically in this sport, here's what you need to work on. If you're a linebacker, moving side to side, or committing to the ball, or reading that quarterback, or whatever it is. They'll give the sport specific feedback, and they'll be able to give them programs where they can actually go and work on specific skills in the sport, baseball, basketball, whatever it is. And so we're excited about that. And they'll actually have the ability to team up with Ascension, where Ascension can help them get if it's get an NIL deal, man, those dudes have crushed it. They just produced the number one portal group of athletes in the whole country. And so they produced several $1 million athletes. And so they can get you there, or they can just take an athlete and they can get them to the biggest possible school that they're capable of. I know that right now they've got 2 athletes we talked about earlier who before Ascension had they only had 2 offers, is Liberty and Charlotte, and both of these athletes now have Georgia, NC State, Duke. They have all the schools now, and so these guys have the connections at the schools, and they've done a really good job. They care about their athletes. They probably care about their athletes more than they care about anything, but they probably care more about helping their athletes get to where they want to go more than they care about making a living. So, which they need to make sure they do that too. But they're good people, and so we're teaming up to provide that. But we'll also be able to give athletes specific nutrition. We'll have blood testing if you want to go that deep, where we can look at micronutrients, where we can look at the exact amounts of macros that they need. We can look at sleep specific. We'll give, instead of just me talking to you and seeing what your sleep hygiene might look like, they're going to analyze that. So we'll have a sports nutritionist, we'll have a sports psychologist, we'll have the sleep expert. You'll be able to look at every aspect of your athletic ability and your abilities as an athlete, and we'll be able to give you a program for every single aspect to improve it. And so it's the most complete plan you're ever going to get. We'll look at everything: biomechanics, range of motion, speed, strength, athletic ability, your tape, your highlight films, improving that. So we're excited. We already have our first athletes doing it. Super excited. CJ, I'll see you soon. I can't wait to see you the weekend of February 20th through 23rd. And so we have ironically, we have an awesome camp for some of our big Ascension athletes, and so it's going to be a fun weekend. But if you want to perfect every aspect of your athletic game, then this is your program. It'll be unlike anything, and we will service you unlike any athletic performance program in America. So, but for this, I suggest email me, Travis at Rise Indoor Sports, and let's sit down and talk about exactly where you're at, where you want to go, and what you need from us, and then we'll go from there. So, but we're super excited about a lot of things we're doing. If you guys want to go online to masterleague.com, we still got all of our ebooks, and our online programming is still at the holiday discounted prices, mainly because I've been working so hard with our coaches here at Rise that I haven't had time to change it. So if you want to go take advantage of it, do it. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. We will be consistent now on week to week. You can expect the Barbell Life is coming back, and now we'll start to have our guests as well. Expect topics anywhere from programming, athletic performance, sports science, to the latest in NIL, what we're doing with Ascension Sports. So we'll probably introduce you to a lot of what's going on here too. So, but we'll bring our outside guests back on, our sports psychologist hour. Gosh, we've had so many amazing guests in the past, whether it's Keith Barr about tendons, where it's Kelly Starrett, who's the world famous physical therapist, who coined the term mobility. So believe it or not, and he's just a good buddy, and the dude is the most caring person I've ever known. So we've had some amazing guests. It's time to get that rolling again. Of course, you can always go listen to Barbell Shrug. I feel like the difference in Barbell Shrug and the Barbell Life now is Barbell Shrug is about about general physical life. It's about perfecting physical fitness, Whereas, Barbell Life is going to stick true to, it's more about athletic performance and weightlifting and powerlifting. So I'm never going to go too far from the things I love. So, but, definitely some of that. But youth development, that's a big part of my heart. But that's what we'll be doing here. Weightlifting, powerlifting, athletic youth development, athletic performance, getting athletes to jump super high and run super fast and lift super heavyweights and stay as healthy as possible and learn to love working out so we can make America, oh gosh, I almost said so we can make America healthy again. I don't want to steal that term from Kennedy. So plus, I don't know if you guys look like him or not. So I don't know if I like him or not yet. I need to hear more about him. So anyway, MasterLead.com, you guys. Always go to gymwear.com, and for all of your velocity-based training needs, you can use code MASH5. If you want to check out and get a good discount on their flex units, go to Swift Performance for the best jump mat and the best timing gates in the world, and they have some really cool products coming out. But I'll probably wait. They have this Force sled that's incredible, but I'll probably wait till they come out with it. It's just right now in development. But if you want the best treadmill, go to Shredmill and go check out the Shredmill. I think it's shredmill.com, but it's Tony Villani, the Shredmill, man, those things are limited. It was hard for us to get one. They're just going like hotcakes, but they are the coolest thing when it comes to speed development that I've ever used. But anyway, guys, I'll see you next week. This is Coach Travis Mash signing off here at Rise Indoor Sports.